What's going on, everybody? And welcome to today's show. I'm Ray. If you're new to the channel, a little bit about myself. I have 26 years of guiding experience. I'm also owner of an outfitter called RMA Outfitters in Northwest Missouri. I've been an outfitter for 17 years there. Born and raised in South Florida, and my old stomping grounds in the Everglades, and I still hunt the Everglades to this day. Public land or private land, I'll take whatever I can get. Archery is my passion and what I love, but I don't discriminate. And if it's season to hunt with whatever weapon it is, I'm in. So, that being said, let's dive into it and what today is going to be about. So, today's going to be about shot angle, broadhead choice, recovery, on just a mixture of little details that I've seen throughout my guiding and outfitting experience, that I've seen have helped and hurt. So, first one we're gonna sit here and dive into is shot angle. So, shot angle is, if that deer's broadside, quartering away or quartering to, every angle that deer gives you is going to be a different entrance and a different exit that you're going to want to be looking for. So if that animal is broadside, you're going to want to take a what we've all been taught to do is, right behind the shoulder or into the lungs. I prefer shooting the lungs. I'm a lung shooter. It gives you a bigger target, more margin where if you mess up, error, you have a bigger target to go into. Some guys just love shooting the heart. It is what it is. I just see that as, you're aiming for a smaller object that if you go too far forward, you could hit that leg and that bone and maybe deflect or get no penetration. So I prefer to stick to the lungs. Um, and also, when you get a full passer, you get that big spray and they end up not going very far as well. So that's my preference. But shot angle, so let's say that animal is quartering away from you. If that animal is quartering away from you, you're going to want to aim for the off leg, not the leg that's towards you that we've been drilled in our mind, shoot behind the leg, shoot behind the leg. And that's one thing that I think that it is good, but I've seen it more often than not when that deer is quartering away from you, those hunters will tuck it right between, right in the back of that front leg, and it ends up coming out the front brisket, and sometimes maybe not even clipping, doesn't clip an artery or an organ, nothing, and we don't end up finding that deer. So that's a big thing to really pay attention to. If that animal is quartering away from you, you want to make sure you tuck that arrow farther back, like last rib, and go out try to make that arrow go out the opposing leg. The leg that's away from you. That's where you want that arrow to go through, so you can get a lot of those vitals on the way out. Quartering to you, that's another one. And remember, it all depends how hard they're quartering to you and how much you need to, sneak back or sneak forward. Those are, you're just going to have to live in the moment on that. And when they're quartering to you, you want to try to make your arrow go out of that last rib. You want to try to tuck it in close to that shoulder that's facing you, tuck it in that line, and try to make it go out that last rib on that side. Um, and that'll put you in the wheelhouse there. So, another one, when we get to talking about things, is when you make that shot, right? You just did the shot, watch what the animal did. Now, what that animal did just told you a big story. And that paints a picture for either someone else that's going to help you track, or it's going to paint a picture for me, the outfitter, or your guide, whoever it may be, or for yourself. A lot of the times, more often than not, how that animal presents when that arrow hits him is has to do with somewhere in the vitals or in the body that you just shot that deer. So sometimes when you shoot them in the guts, they'll stow up and they'll hunch their back up and they'll walk away real slow. Um, Sometimes when you shoot them in the lungs, they'll take off like if they are on fire and boogie on out of there. When you shoot them in the heart, somewhere extremely vital up there, they'll donkey kick, like they say, or smash their back legs in the air, take off. So, those things that deer just did told you something that maybe you didn't really recognize Or as hunters, we get so excited, we don't really remember what our arrow did or where our arrow did, or we don't have maybe a luminoc in the back to trace our arrow that I'm a big fan of. Um, Now you're just like, I don't know where I shot. Okay, but what did that deer do? Oh, well, he kicked his back legs up. All right. Hopefully, we have a heart shot on our hands or something very vital up front there. But I have had it where things present like something and they're not. I've had where a deer gets shot really low belly and he kicks up out of it because he's like, whoa, what's that? And he kicks up in the air, kicks his leg up, and you're like, heart shot him. And we get there to track him, and it's just white hair. So those are the things that I tell you more often than that sometimes can happen in those aspects. I have uh, a few years ago, I had a guy on video. Deer took off crazy fast. We looked at the video, and I'm like, man, it looks far back, but it was a liver shot and presented like if it was a lung shot. But thank God for those tacticams those still cams that you put on your bow. I'm a fan of those things too. So if you could film your hunt, do it. It helps you put a puzzle together on what you saw and what really took place and where the deer was actually standing, and you get to see it and share it with your friends too. But it's harder. It's easier to say that than it really is to do. After you shoot your deer and that deer presents however it presents, that deer runs off. Pay attention to where that deer ran to. I tell all my hunters all the time to pay attention to where that deer just ran to. And what that does is, let's paint a picture. Sat there, here comes a buck or a doe, you draw your bow back, you're sitting there, you touch it off, smash the deer, boom, he takes off. You're going to watch that deer. Okay, he went underneath that oak tree. He went to the right of it. Okay, you lost sight of him. We get there to track that deer. There's no blood. Maybe you high lung him, and it takes a while for that blood to fill up before it starts coming out of him. So sometimes they'll go 100 yards, 75 yards, 150 yards before they start spraying blood sometimes. So what just happened there is, by you watching where that deer ran to, you just saved yourself 100 yards or whatever it is of gap to be like, well, this is the last place I saw him. Oh, yep, there's blood. That's when he started bleeding, was over there. So always pay attention to where that deer ran to. That it's so important to do that. It could actually really make the difference of recovering that deer or not recovering that deer sometimes. Another one is, you just watched where that deer ran to, right? And you're not sure about the shot. You need to just relax, tone it down, and whatever you think your wait time is going to be, give it an hour more. Give it one more hour. And, send those text messages. Just live in the hype. Be so excited, and just try to remember it all and gather your stuff together and just sit down, soak it up, thank God for the opportunity that just took place. And I honestly believe that you, as the shooter, is it you're the worst person to track that deer. I say it to myself all the time. The shooter shouldn't track the deer. Sometimes we just have to because we're just by ourselves. But that's where I feel like you need to just slow down, really mark on your watch. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I'm gonna wait till X, whatever your shot was that you want to wait. I'm gonna wait till this time, and before I go track that animal. You really need to just relax, because sometimes we want to jump and skip too far, and it will destroy our opportunity to recover that animal. So take your time, relax, enjoy it, and then wait an extra hour to whatever you think it's gonna be. So another giant one to this, and please, pay attention to this part as well, is you just shot your animal. He ran to where he ran to. you're all up in your emotions, you're so excited, you're like you just went to a theme park and rode their craziest roller coaster, and you're trying to gather everything that just took place. And sometimes we doubt ourselves when that arrow is released. More often times than not, when that animal leaves our sight, we're doubting ourselves. We're doubting what we thought we just did. We're doubting our method of how we just did it. Maybe we could have done it a little faster, or maybe you should have waited for that extra step, or maybe you should have waited. Maybe he would have got closer and you could have taken the shot. We're doubting everything. So what's the first thing we want to do to alleviate our doubt? Get down and go check that arrow. Please do not check the arrow. Do not check that arrow. Leave it alone. Really think about what you want to do. If you know for a fact that that deer is way down there, okay, then you can probably get away with checking that arrow. But I'm going to share a story of mine that happened to me. And I was sitting in a cedar thicket. My buck that I was after for like, I don't know, 40 sits, I believe. I finally have an encounter in range. He's behind me, 40 yards. I turn around, stop him. I drew my bow back, relaxed, doom. And when I shot, I remember I pulled my bow and I hit far back, very far back. So I immediately thought it was a terrible shot. So he had like a 30-yard gap before he got in the timber where I couldn't see him anymore. So he took 2 bounds and he was in the timber. So I'm sitting there and I'm like living this roller coaster on this stand, and I'm like all up in my feelings here, calling my wife. I don't know, maybe it was bad, it was good, it was good, it was bad. I'm looking at the video. It was a little bit quartering away, but I don't know. So what I've always told myself and what I'm preaching here, I did against it. I let my feelings and my emotions get the best of me. I got off my stand. I went over there, I don't know, like 30 minutes after the shot. And no kidding, I bend down to grab this arrow and I hear something. And when I look to my right, he stands up and just walks out of my life. My heart sank. If I could have just beat myself up there, I would have just beat myself up there in the field. And I don't know if that's ever happened to you guys, but it just takes the wind out of you. It's terrible. You can't you can think about it and you go home and you think about it all night long till the next day when you want to go track him. It's such a terrible gut wrenching feeling. And the next day I did go back out and I end up finding that deer. He expired 40 yards away from where I jumped him up from, and he was eaten by coyotes. So, you know, not how you really want to find them, but my mistake. You know, either way, just really pay attention to looking for that arrow. Wanted a confirmation of looking at the arrow. Give yourself some depth. Make sure you have some yardage between where you saw that deer run to. And another one I want to harp on with that has to do with that is your wind. So we all think about wind as okay, well, our deer's going to come from here. We want our wind in our face so the deer can't smell us. Yes, whole nother topic for another time. That is great for that. But also, you have to think of wind after shot as well. So I'm going to paint a picture here. Let's say the wind is coming this way, right? The wind is going this way. You shot your animal here. Your animal ran this way. Wind is going this way, right? So you're sitting there and you're evaluating your shot. Okay, I shot this deer, and however he presented when you shot, that's how he presented. You saw that deer run away. Okay, now you want to give yourself X amount of hours, but you don't want to wait on the stand. You don't want to feed off your emotions and maybe make a mistake and go look too early, or you want to go home or go to the lodge or go get help. So you want to go to your truck. So remember, wind going this way, deer ran this way, and let's say your truck is right where you are. My truck is right there. So my exit is that way. So you think, okay, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go to the exit. So you go start walking along. Your wind is going this way, and you have no idea what's about to take place. You're just walking your truck. That wind goes by you, hits that deer that's bedded, and hopefully he's expired, or maybe he's not expired. And if he's not expired, that wind just hit you. That wind went to him. He just scented you, and maybe he gets out of his bed and he walks off. And Later on, you wait the time you allotted for, you come back, you go to start your track. All of a sudden, you find a bed, bunch of blood in it. All you know is you found a bed. It could have been that maybe you did push him out of that bed that he would have expired on, and now you push him somewhere that maybe he clotted up or whatever the case may be, and you don't have that much blood anymore. You just push that deer. You have no idea that you just did that. So pay attention to your exit strategy, where the deer went to, and if that means that you have to do that big loop around to get out, yeah, it's going to be more work, but it's going to work in your favor later, um, for a quick and fast recovery so you can get that meat and get your trophy. We're going to talk about now waiting times. This is such a, you know, crazy discussion sometimes at the lodge with all the hunters on how long we should wait. And sometimes when I say how long we should wait, it is gut wrenching to some guys. But like if a guy tells me, "Hey Ray, I gut shot this deer," we might wait 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours. We might have to wait that long because I have pushed so many deer in my career that we would have found that now we're not going to find, or we'll find them in shed season, and now we lost all that meat. So those are big things to me that I would rather pull back and not bump that deer and just say, hey, let's relax, let's see what we can do, you know, and let some time go by, and let's go look for that animal. So every shot has different times that you should wait, right? So those are things that I think we can discuss on another video on the exact times that we should wait. But usually, I say when it comes to liver and guts, I'm at the very least 8 to 10 hours. I'm talking minimum. I'm gonna probably say 10 hours, but at the minimum, 8 to 10 hours is what you want to wait. And if you're very far back, you're really, if okay, I got far back on that animal, you're gonna have to bump those hours up. Um, and um, if you got a double lung, that deer probably should not have left your sight, or you should have heard him crash. Or, if you heart shot that deer, same scenario. You should have seen that deer go down, or you should have heard him crash. So, what's a lot of blood? Right? That's a big one I get a lot of the time from the hunters is, I got blood everywhere here. It's crazy. I'm drowning in blood. And I, I get it. We're excited, right? The whole roller coaster, we're jacked up. But picture, let's just paint a picture here. Your hand, you slice your hand open, right? You slice your hand open bad, and you walk around your house. It's going to look like a murder scene. You flinging your hand like this and you just walking around, my hand's cut. There's going to be blood everywhere, but you're not going to die. It's going to clot, and you're going to live. So it to the eye, you're like, someone's dead here. Something's dead. No, it's just a hand cut. Just happen to bleed a lot, or a head cut bleeds a lot. So don't ever let blood sometimes dictate your knowing of what the deer presented when you shot, knowing where you think you shot, and then all of a sudden you're going to be like, "Oh yeah, there's blood everywhere. I'm going to go look for this animal." Yes, it's a piece of the puzzle, but don't let it mess up everything that's about to make the puzzle. So refrain from sometimes letting that. Remember, a lot of blood, if you have let's say 100 yards to look. If you lung shot your deer, more often than not, you're gonna watch that deer go down. You're gonna see the sprays of blood through everything when you double lung him. You're gonna probably watch that deer go down or expire right out of your vision. Heart shot deer, same thing. You're gonna see that deer go down. You're gonna see him do the little circle, the little dead twitch on his tail. You're gonna watch that whole thing go down right there. But if you shoot a deer and you know, he goes and you get to 100 yards or tracking because you think, oh, I know for a fact that I double lung this deer, and you're tracking and you get to that like 100, 150 mark, and you're kind of peeking over and you can't see him. Rethink about what you're working on. Are you working on emotions, Or are you working on facts that, okay, hold on. There is a lot of blood, but I really think that I single lung that deer. I didn't get a lot of penetration, or I think I shot farther back where it could be guts, and maybe I got that offside. Back out. Back out. Do yourself a favor, relax, and just back out of there. Thank God, now I have a thermal drone, so a lot of those things nowadays we're able to take care of there at the lodge, where I could throw the thermal drone up in the air and we could tell a story immediately of, nope, this deer's still alive. Let's come back in a couple hours and throw the drone up again and look, or nope, your deer's expired. Let's go recover your animal. And some states, a lot of states now are starting to offer that, so maybe that's an option that you should check into if you're doubting yourself. Call somebody with a thermal drone and get a thermal drone in the air and get your deer. They 100% work. Hey guys, I just want to take a brief second here and give a big shout out and thank you to all my sponsors. Tacticam, I absolutely love their cell cameras and I run a ton of them. It's a big part of my success. I would definitely go out and check them out and run some cell cameras from Tacticam if you don't already. Another sponsor of mine is Dirty South Taxidermy. He has mounted many of my animals. He does amazing work, full range of animals. Definitely go check out Dirty South Taxidermy. Let's get back to the show. Another thing that we have in our favor in many states, and a lot of states have them year round, is birds. Birds can help you tremendously. Birds can help you target and find where your animal's expired. And the crows will start going crazy, or you'll see there, and vultures more often than not, they'll start circling, and okay, that's kind of where I thought my deer ran to. Yep, those vultures are on them. I'm going over there. So those are things that you should use, and sometimes it won't be immediate. Sometimes you'll shoot them on a Monday and you'll go back Tuesday and nothing, and you'll go back Wednesday. Yep, there are the birds. So use all the tools you have at hand and just remember what time of the year it is. In the Midwest there, usually usually that mid-October-ish, we start losing those vultures. It starts to get too cold for them and they take off. So we kind of tend to rely on vultures. I mean, I'm sorry, crows sometimes. We'll kind of stick on crows and you'll hear them cawing and going crazy sometimes on the carcasses. So you got to use those tools as helpers, as crutches. As hunters, we need as many little things as we can get to bring some things together. So another thing I get all the time is, we want to wait. We're gonna let this deer hold for a little while because we think we have a marginal shot in our hands. We're gonna wait and give it some time. So sometimes we'll look at the weather and be like, man, it's gonna rain. We're gonna lose blood. Okay, that is a very big factor. Is weather. Weather is a big factor, but there's things that play with that factor. So you have to think in your mind, okay, if we go in too early, which I think we're going in too early, and we push this animal from where I think this animal is, and we push him, you're going to back out regardless because you just pushed him. You're going to back out, and it's going to rain, and now you have no idea where you think that deer went to, because maybe that's out of your wheelhouse territory that and now it is washed off. So sometimes I say back out. You see the weather coming. Look at a map and say, okay, I really do think that that deer is in this core area. I've shot deer here before. They usually ran there to expire, or I saw him run in this area. That's the last place. I don't think he's going to cross X field or whatever the case may be. There's a big creek bottom. I don't think he can make it up that side ditch with his injury. He's probably going to stay on this side of the ditch. That's knowledge that'll say, okay, I'm just going to let it rain and I'll go in there tomorrow and go look for that deer instead of pushing him and losing him. Or another factor, maybe you only have so much ground that you're allowed to hunt, and your neighbors don't allow you to go on their side. So what happens if you go in there and you push that deer and it goes onto your neighbor's side? Now you just lost that deer and you're not going to be able to recover that animal. So there's a lot of little things to really take into consideration here and to really think of, all right, if I do this, this will happen. Or if I do this, this can happen. So rain sometimes does dictate what we do, and sometimes um, it doesn't. So you really have to just weigh out your options and really what you're up against to go out there and what you're about to do. Just remember we owe everything to this animal, and we're trying to be as ethical as possible, and we're trying to recover the meat, and we're trying to recover our trophy and a beautiful story and a great time, and we owe it to ourselves and that to give it our best shot. So you did your best to execute the shot. Now let that shot take its place and let that deer take its time to expire. So I hope you guys really enjoyed today's show. I definitely enjoy bringing it to you. And as always, if you want to check me out and come hunting with me in RMA Outfitters in Northwest Missouri, you're more than welcome. I would love to have you. But until the next time, guys, I can't wait to talk more with you. See you guys later.